Hi there, my name is Porsha Lauri. Welcome to or welcome back to my YouTube channel. And as you can see, I am in a little bit of a different location. Doing a little bit of reorganizing, and I thought it might be nice to try to change up my background. So let me know in the comments if you like it. And today we are talking about one of my favorite movies. So some of you might know if you've checked out my About Me video. If not, I'll link it in the description below. But I was a figure skater growing up. I know that you're assuming that I was an ice skater, which I was. So I was a roller skater. A roller figure skater, which if you are unfamiliar with what that is, it's literally the same thing as ice skating but on four wheels. And I did that for the majority of my skating career. However, after the '98 Olympics, I got really obsessed with Tara Lipinski, who actually was a roller figure skater before she made the transition to ice skating. And after watching her win the '98 Olympics, I was like, well, I obviously want to win the Olympics too, so maybe I should get into ice skating. As I'm sure you all know, it's not in the Olympics, and I wanted to go to the Olympics. So I ice skated for about 6 years from 8 to 14. So I thought it would be really fun if I did a review of the movie Ice Princess, since I have a little bit of backstory into what it's like to actually be a figure skater. If things like this interest you, if you like listening to my opinions about movies, TV shows, music, whatever it is, pop culture, please do me a solid and drop a like on this video, and then run over that subscribe button and hit the bell next to it so you'll be notified every time I upload. So Ice Princess came out in 2005. It starred Michelle Trachtenberg, which I love her so much. If I have any 90s kids watching my channel, you should know her better as Harriet the Spy or Penny from Inspector Gadget. It also starred Kim Cattrall from Sex and the City and Hayden Panettiere, who was just seemingly everywhere in the 2000s. I guess most notably from Heroes. In Ice Princess, we meet a girl named Casey, and she's declared by her classmates as a science nerd or geek. After class one day, her science teacher approaches her and he's like,
"Scholarship?
No.
It's given to a student from this part of the state who shows the most promise in the sciences. Of course, your 11 straight A+ on exams is a hint. You'll need a letter from me for the scholarship, and you should think about a special physics project over the summer. Something unusual but personal."
So Casey goes home with this new knowledge of the science scholarship, and she's sitting on the couch with her friend at her home watching some indistinguishable ice skating competition. And actually the ice skater that she's watching, I don't know if they make reference to it, but it's Sacha Cohen. Casey gets suddenly hit with an idea about making her project about ice skating, which is kind of interesting because the teacher says for her to do something that's really personal to her. And yeah, at the very beginning of the movie, we do see clips of her ice skating in the pond behind her house. So I guess we can kind of assume she's really into ice skating, even though she is not an ice skater. So that's kind of where the movie takes off. The movie as a whole is fantastic. It's really fun to watch. I highly suggest it. To break down more of the inside look at being a figure skater and the world of figure skating through the eyes of Casey. In order for her to do this project, she's gonna have to film and then go back and analyze using science figure skaters. So she walks into the local ice rink and she has a camera in hand and just immediately starts filming. Shortly after she starts filming, you see that the coach, Kim Cattrall's character, approaches her immediately to ask her what she's doing, assuming that she's spying from another ice rink or spying for someone to get an edge on the competition. And so the moment I see this scene, the first thing I'm thinking of is like stranger danger. Why would you, even as a teenage girl, walk into a location and just start filming kids? Like, these are obviously children. Like, I don't understand under any circumstance why you would think that that would be okay. And then Kim Cattrall's character coming in so heated and ready to like be like, what are you doing? Call the cops, essentially. I think that that's really on point. I've never seen this happen. Like, I've never had that happen to me. But I do remember when I was skating, there would be times where skaters would come in from other rinks and they would take lessons with different coaches. And sometimes this would be in a way to either A, get an edge on the competition, or other people would use it just to utilize someone else's point of view to improve their own skating. So everyone being up in arms with Casey and reacting to her very poorly, I think is super on point for how people would really react. Ultimately, we do see Casey convince the parents to sign waivers to allow her to then continue to film. And everyone kind of understands that it's a science project, even though one of the moms I know makes a quip that she's going to take it to her lawyers, which, again, I knew kids with parents like that, so that definitely fits into the mold. So shortly after Casey begins filming these kids and kind of applying science to the movements, she realizes that it would be essential for her to really get in there and apply these scientific methods to what she's doing. So in order to do that, she has to sign up for lessons. And upon hearing how much all of this is going to cost, she realizes she's going to need a job. And so Casey quickly picks up a job at the ice rinks. I also did this. The moment I turned 16, actually a month before my 16th birthday, I started working at the roller rink that I skated out of. And at the time, my parents were paying for my skating, but when I started earning my own money, I started to kind of help out with some of the bills. Skating is incredibly expensive, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So we see Casey begin to take group lessons. Vast difference between roller skating and ice skating. So in roller skating, if you want to learn to skate, there are usually like Saturday morning, like skate with like parents and kids type group sessions where you can learn how to skate. If you want to learn to skate, you would just take private lessons. Ice skating, it's structured a whole lot differently. They would have ice skating group lessons and they would all be divided into certain groups based on level. Skating is one of those things that they want to start you young, as young as possible if you want to train to like go to the Olympics or things like that. But also, you can't really age out of skating, or categories for everyone. So while she's taking these classes, there's a recital that comes at the end of them. I think at first Casey isn't going to perform in the recital, but then at the last minute decides to ultimately join. I think she gets the buzz, you know? Something about skating really changes her and makes her feel these feelings that I don't think she's had before. And so she decides like, yeah, I'm gonna skate in the recital. So Casey decides to perform in the recital, but she doesn't have a costume. So luckily enough, Kim Cattrall's character decides to lend her one, which is super nice and also a very big part of skating. Like there's so many pictures I look back on and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that dress. I borrowed it from so-and-so. But she decides to join the recital and she skates and she lands this like perfect double flip. And everyone's like impressed with it, and I don't think anyone had expected her to learn so quickly or to be so naturally talented at it. And it kind of changes her perspective from this just being a class project to being something she's maybe really good at and maybe really passionate about. Something I'm not sure that anyone else noticed while they were watching this movie, but something I was heavily aware of is how Michelle Trachtenberg so effortlessly conveys the passion she feels when she's skating. And I think it's important because, of course, with this being a figure skating movie, you have to know that there is a double doing all of the tricks, okay? Like, it's not her. So for her to have these close-up shots where she's supposed to be selling that, yeah, of course it's me skating the whole time, I feel like she just, I don't know, she just does it. It's just, you forget that there's somebody else doing all the real moves, and she just makes it seem, I don't know, like, I feel that way too. Like, I can't exactly put into words how I feel when I'm skating, but she has that same look. After the recital, Casey decides that, like, you know, this is something she's really into, and she decides that she wants to go to a competition. She wants to put herself in the shoes of all of these ice skaters she's been watching and kind of just experience it and see what happens. The part about this that really irritates me is it wouldn't be quite this simple. Competitive ice skating is a different world than just skating for fun. And there's a lot of politics and things that go into it. And while I think they kind of touch on this, they don't really go into it in full detail.
You got some raw talent, but that's not enough for a shot at the regionals. You need a coach, ballet, choreographer, private ice time. Nikki's parents took out a second mortgage just to put her through this. And Tiffany's dad works 2 jobs. Oh.
But here's what I do remember of being a kid in figure skating is that you sign up for these competitions well in advance. I want to say we would sign up for these things probably a month in advance. And then you can't just go and compete at these competitions for free. You have to pay to be a part of this competition. But you have to join the figure skating world which means you pay a fee yearly to be part of it, and that's how you're able to compete. Or like if you're a coach, for example, you also have to pay a fee every year, and you have to take tests to do what you're doing. So again, she wouldn't be able to just start competing like that. But they get to the competition and they're like walking in and kind of surveying. This is Casey's first time at a competition. There's just tension in the air. Like people, especially in ice skating, but a lot of these kids are trying to make this a career. And so, you know, the competitive level is at an all-time high. And what it's like to interact with other skaters. I really love that Hayden Panettiere's character tells Casey, don't worry about anything until after the long. And at first I thought, oh wow, she's really trying to mess her up to ensure that she gets a good placement on the podium. But actually it works for Casey so that she doesn't freak out during the short. And playing classical music the whole time probably wouldn't be quite as interesting. But you can't have words with music. I don't know if anybody cares about any of that information, but there you have it. So kind of the last thing I want to talk about is the money. In reality, I don't think there's any way that Casey would have been able to afford any of this. Even if she was selling her physics, science, and helping these skaters improve, even if she was working at the snack bar every single day, I can't imagine that she would actually be able to pay for this herself. Just to give you kind of an idea of all the things that you would have to pay for, Kim Cattrall mentions that you gotta get your blade sharpened every 6 weeks. Then there's costumes, which are super expensive. The second half is all of, you know, the rhinestones that you see. When I was skating, I did all the rhinestoning myself from the time I was probably like 12 or 13 up until I quit. In a sport that is half talent, half beauty, you know, there's other beauty maintenance things. The upkeep of like, I had to get my nails done all the time so that my fingertips looked really nice. When I was in high school, I started doing extensions, not for skating, but it allowed me to do more different types of hairstyles depending on what kind of program I was performing. There's all these little things, different little add-on beauty things that start to, you know, cost a lot of money. Once we get into, you know, actual practice time, it's expensive to just be able to skate. When I was ice skating, we used to get a punch card and it would be $50. And I think $50 was like 10 sessions or something like that. And on minimum, everyone I knew had to practice at least 3 days a week. But that's putting it super lightly. Like again, like because I was roller skating and ice skating at the same time, I was able to utilize a lot of time between the two to practice them together, if that makes sense. You know, when I wasn't ice skating, I could roller skate, and roller skating, especially like hatch time, is a heck of a lot cheaper. And then after that, we're talking about coaches' fees, and then we're talking competition fees. The layers of fees are just growing exponentially. So in reality, would Casey have been able to afford to skate? Yeah, maybe for a little bit, but to compete at the level that she is at by the end of the movie, nah, she definitely needs her mom's help for sure. With picking up like advertisers and things like that, that also helps a lot. But it's just incredibly expensive to skate. It's honestly the only reason I quit when I did, but that's the reality of being a competitive figure skater. All right. So to kind of wrap things up, here's the last few things I want to touch on. Another thing that I really wish would be a little different, and this isn't me attacking Ice Princess specifically, but the lack of representation is really frustrating. And I hope that in the future, when we see more of these types of movies, I just wish there was more representation of other ethnicities. And lastly, Kim Cattrall plays a perfect coach. She's just the right bit of stern mixed with like a little bit of like love and caring and passion for the sport. I'm a huge Sex and the City nut, so yeah, I'm a little biased, but I really think she just sold it so perfectly. She just reminded me of so many coaches I had before. So that's my wrap up of Ice Princess. I actually think this movie did a really good job of playing true to what it's really like. But tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this movie? Were you also a figure skater? Did you find this to be relatable for you or not so much? And then tell me also what other movies I should cover. I'm on a whole Disney Plus kick, as I'm sure the rest of you are too, so if there's more Disney movies specifically that you want me to do, make sure to leave them in the comments below. I've had a lot of fun talking about Ice Princess, and I can't wait until next time. See you guys later. Bye!